The weight's gonna feel challenging no matter what, at the expense of your form. Heavy weight is not worth it.
Bing bong.
What's up? We're back. Pick Cubano. I'm still making videos. We're gonna try to stick with it. Damn it, we're gonna try to stick with it. Right off the bat, you can thank this guy Kyle. He left a comment giving me a whole bunch of video ideas. I've been asking you guys what you'd like to see if I decide to bring this channel back and make more videos. So shout out to Kyle. He really hooked it up. So this video, one of the mistakes, one of the worst mistakes I see at the gym, something I've been guilty of, that absolutely impedes your progress as you're going, lifting too heavy. I just want to say, right? Lifting heavy is a good thing. You want to progressively overload your muscles so that they grow. But one of the things that I see in the gym, and I see this with my clients and in the past, and sometimes currently, I am guilty of it as well, but certainly when I was newer to lifting and had much more of an ego about going heavy, is not wanting to adjust the weight, right? Lifting heavy for the sake of lifting heavy. You're taking a video, you're putting it on Instagram or TikTok or whatever, you're trying to get views, you're trying to impress other people who, to be completely honest, not only do they probably not care how much weight you're lifting, but they really shouldn't. No one should really give a shit how much anyone else is capable of lifting. I don't know where that culture came from, but to an extent, I get it, right? When I was new to lifting, I wanted to go as heavy as possible. I wanted to bench 315. I wanted to deadlift 500 pounds and squat 4 plates. And outside of the benching 315, I had a really strong squat. I was able to squat like, I don't know, 440 something. And I was able to deadlift like 450 pounds. It was really cool. Didn't really matter. One of the things I wanted to really hone in on with this issue of lifting too heavy is not knowing when to just lower the weight. I see it a lot with my clients, and I'm always asking people how the weight feel, how the exercise feel, how the movement feel, muscles feel okay. Almost universally, when I give someone the opportunity to make the weight just a little bit lighter, right? Nobody's saying you got to cut the weight in half, go from, 100 pounds to 50 pounds, but more so just that as you're doing your repetitions, as you're doing your sets, as your muscles continue to get more and more fatigued, the weight's gonna feel challenging no matter what, at the expense of your form. Heavy weight is not worth it. Now, some of this comes from me just getting older, having more lifting experience, not wanting to overload my joints, which I'm not a power lifter. Go and ask any long-term power lifter. They're going to tell you it's not good to do for too long a period of time because you're destroying your joints. And I'm sure they all take a bunch of supplements to try to keep their joints as healthy as possible for a really long time. And it's not even so much the ego lifting thing, because that I think could maybe even be its own separate video. But it's more so your progress is not this increasing line week to week, day to day, where the weight has to go up by 5 pounds every single time. And if it ever drops down, then it means something's wrong. Then it means you've screwed up in some way and you're not progressing the way that you should be progressing. None of that's true. In fact, I think it's far more impressive when somebody listens to their body and says, okay, that felt really challenging. And it didn't feel challenging in a good way. It felt challenging in the sort of way where if I do that weight again, I'm either not gonna have the correct form or I could get injured. In those scenarios, I tell people look, if we're training and you get hurt, you're useless. You're useless to yourself, you're useless to your goals, you're not coming in anymore, you're not working towards what you wanted to work towards, and you learned a very hard lesson about knowing when to make the weight lighter. And I think it's just something where I wanna get rid of this notion that week to week, you have to be progressing weight-wise, because progress, one of these things that I try to tell people I work with, it's not only on the scale, it's not only on how heavy your bench is or your squat or whatever. It can be how many times did you go to the gym this week versus last week? How did you feel at the end of your workouts, one week to the next? Maybe your muscular endurance has improved. Maybe a certain exercise that you felt unstable or felt really challenging one week didn't feel as challenging the next week. With the same weight, you do not need to constantly be bumping the weight up. I know that maybe to a younger generation, or maybe even to people in their 30s like me who are more my generation, maybe they still love to lift heavy. Maybe their whole life, their whole personality is built around constantly slamming around heavy weights in the gym. But I feel like if you're gonna do this for a long time, and ideally that's the goal when it comes to fitness, right? It's something that you don't want it to be a phase. You want it to be something that is a part of your life for a very long time. Like I remember seeing the Ruth Bader Ginsburg documentary, and she was working out with a trainer 3 times a week when she was like 95. So ideally, that's where we all end up with this as a hobby, as something that we enjoy, something that's important. If the weight is really, really heavy, do not let yourself get in the way of just dropping it a little bit. I see it with other people in the gym. I'm sure from time to time, I am guilty of it as well. I try not to be. I try to be incredibly liberal with just like dropping the weight down 10 pounds, 5 pounds, whatever it might be, whatever I feel like will still feel challenging, but will allow me to keep the form and prevent any sort of risk of injury. Like, that's what I'm doing. I love working out. I don't want to put myself in a position where I can't work out for a while. And so if it comes at the expense of, curling 5 pounds lighter or doing a row with 10 pounds less weight, totally worth it. Do not let yourself get in the way of dropping the weight down a little bit. Challenge is good. Dangerous level of challenge where you might get hurt or do something wrong, not nearly as good. Something to keep in mind, by all means. Maybe you think I don't know what I'm talking about. Maybe you want to keep lifting heavy and posting videos of your 500-pound deadlift where your back is bent over like the Hunchback of Notre Dame. You totally can. But in the long run, nothing's wrong with pushing that ego down a little bit, making the exercise just a teeny tiny bit more easy and realistic, and hopefully it keeps you healthy for a really long time.